June 26th Joplin School Board meeting. Roll call, please, Pat.
Jennifer Martucci.
I'm here.
Derek Gander.
Present.
Lori Musser.
Here.
Dr. Ford.
Present.
Bruce Jordan.
Present.
And Deborah Gould.
Here.
Sheriff Lamont.
Here, thank you, Pat. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have a couple of amendments to our agenda. We're going to remove item G, number 5. And this is in
Consent 7.
yeah. And then I'm sorry.
Consent
F
7 and 8.
Consent 7 and 8. That's right. We're going to put that on the. We're going to move those to the regular agenda, right?
Yes.
Pat, I hope that made sense. We're moving consent 7 and 8 to the regular agenda, and we're removing from the regular agenda item G5. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Thank you, Derek. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Debbie. It's been moved and seconded that the amended agenda be approved. Those in favor, please vote. In favor or against? Whatever.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Celebrations. Let's see what we got here.
I think Eric's pulling it up.
I didn't get to read those
It's
before
up
we
there.
started. There it is. Great. We are celebrating some tennis players this evening. Garrett Lewis placed 4th in the Class 2 singles tennis at the 2018 MSHSAA Class 2 singles tennis match. So congratulations to Garrett. Nick Males placed 8th at the 2018 MSHSAA Class 2 doubles tennis. And Asa Bora also finished in 8th place. I assume that he and Nick were
Teammates.
teammates.
And we have 2 of them here tonight to
Yeah.
get their certificates. So
Come on,
Come on up.
let's celebrate. All right. Congratulations. Great job. Congratulations. Come on up here. Let's get a photo. Matt, you want to participate in this?
I don't want to be in the photo, I just want to take one, that's all.
All right.
That's all.
Let me get on this side. Surround you.
keep smiling.
It was a lot better if you brought me out, so.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
They make us look good, and I don't
Do I
have to
have
get up there and
something I
run
can
around
read?
with a tennis ball.
It's right here. That's awesome. Thank you. I hadn't seen this earlier today. I look forward to it. Okay, more celebrations. We like to celebrate. Southwest Missouri School Building Engineers met at Carthage High School for 2 days in early June for a DESE Missouri School Plant Manager Association workshop. The workshop provided learning opportunities and certification in supervision and custodial skills. The supervision training included leadership practices, problem solving, conducting performance reviews, and employee relations. The custodial sessions provided information on recognized best practices, chemical and equipment safety, maintenance and repair, and interaction with students, staff, and the general public. Joplin school building engineers that attended and received certification included Justin Lawson at Joplin High School, Martha Guilford at North Middle School, Lourdes Hasty at Stapleton, Maria Gomez at Columbia, Kim Mark in administration, Gary Bennett at Eastmoreland, Kevin Hayes at Jefferson. Continuous improvement in action.
Yes.
We appreciate all they do.
High school musical. I attended Saturday with my daughter. We had a good time. It was a fine production. This year, Joplin High School added 4 courses to its summer school roster: personal finance, health, physical education, and drama. Each class earned students a half credit if completed successfully. Students enrolled in drama class were immersed in the theater experience at Joplin High School. In less than 1 month, students learned lines, lyrics, choreography, built a set, and performed 4 productions of High School Musical. The class was made up of incoming freshmen, current students, and outgoing seniors. The freshmen in the group were welcomed into a support environment and quickly made friends with fellow cast members. Great job.
I'd like to throw out a celebration that just happened today. Blaine Roach was a senior, and he went to nationals in the archery team, and today he was named to the United States NASP All-Star Team.
Wow.
Big news.
Pretty
Thank you,
big.
Debbie.
Yes.
Congratulations to Blaine. Okay, next on the review is me reviewing with you the conflict of interest and Board of Education Policy Committee, and financial disclosure. Where did I put that? So every year as board members, we have a responsibility to adhere to the laws regarding conflict of interest and avoid situations where our decisions or actions in our capacity as board members conflict with the mission of the district. Those relationships that we have as board members outside of our membership here can come in conflict when the school district does business with us as sole proprietors, with us if we are a member of a partnership or joint venture, if we're in any trust relationship or joint venture with a board member or his or her spouse, partner, other than as a limited partner. There's a variety of things here that we as board members are supposed to read and be aware of so that we assure ourselves that we're not in conflict with our school district. This also discusses relationships of people who also may go into business with the board. In certain circumstances, we are not permitted to vote if we have a relative who might be going in business with the school district, and we must withdraw ourselves. I believe everybody who is a board member has at one time or another read this responsibility, this procedure, this policy. So I've been asked to bring a few of these items to your attention, and I'm going to try to do that here tonight. If you're involved in the sale, rental, or lease of personal property, which is property other than real estate, property other than land with the school district, you're required to disclose that. You're required to disclose if you're involved in the sale, rent, or lease of real estate, which is land to the school district. If you, the school district cannot employ us. We may provide our services as volunteers, but we cannot be employed by the school district. We cannot serve as independent contractors. We cannot work for businesses that employ board members. We can also be affected if we work for a business that employs that contracts with the school district. Sorry that I'm getting kind of confused on that. It's clearly stated, and I'm not stating it as clearly as it is here. Let's see here. Self-dealing. We cannot self-deal here as board members. Board members will not use their decision-making authority for the purpose of obtaining a financial gain that materially enriches them, their spouses, or their dependent children. We cannot use confidential information that we obtain as board members to our financial gain. So for example, if we find out in closed session about something that the school intends to do, we cannot use that information that we gain to our financial benefit. Nepotism, financial interest statements, all these things we're required as board members to execute, to provide a financial interest statement and file it with the Missouri Ethics Commission and the Joplin Schools Board of Education on or before May 1st for the preceding calendar year unless the person filing is a board candidate. Candidates must file the reports within 14 days after the last day to file for office. The reports will be made available for public inspection and copying during normal business hours. Anyway, it's all detailed in our policy, and I've been given a board member conflict of interest and financial disclosure statement for all of us to review and execute. If we do have a disclosure that we're required to make, we're required to file that document that I just referred to. It so happens that I do not have to file one because I don't have any of those relationships, but each of us need to consider whether we do and need to make that disclosure. So does anybody have any questions about this policy?
Yes, sir.
Have we covered it sufficiently? So I will ask that our board execute this once they've had an opportunity to review the policy so that we can have it on file with the school district.
We just need to sign the
Uh-huh. Sure.
policy committee.
That moves us to the superintendent's data report.
Do we need a policy committee update?
Yes.
Yeah, we need to.
Board of Education Policy Committee update, excuse me. Deb, Jennifer, or Brent?
So we met, and the policies we have on first read for tonight are basically statutory changes, the administration of medication to students, the nurse, what's her name, Denisa?
Yes.
Sandra. She made those recommendations, but the rest are statutory. And then tonight, our second read, well, we already approved them in the consent, or did we, in the consent agenda? No, we didn't. We approved them. Anyways, we didn't make any changes to those, I don't believe. Nope. So those are just the same as they were before. But it was a good meeting and productive, and we're not sure if we're going to have a meeting next month. There was one policy that might come up that was related to human resources, but
I have that on my calendar, but we'll follow up to make sure.
right, we calendared it, but we're not sure if we're going to meet or not, because if that's the only one, we might be able to do it by email or something. So we may not have a meeting next month, but so.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Then you have your health and dental insurance reports as well as financial statements, and that goes to Dr. Langford. I will say that on the dental care report, that will have even more relevance when we get to our regular agenda item for HVAC dental recommendations. So.
Again, if you look at the information, you can see that the condition of the health plan continues to be strong. Having said that, out in the last 12 months, we did expend more, $900,000 more than a year ago, but yet we're not deficit spending, and it brings to an excess of $5 million the fund balance in that fund, which is good where we are right now. So it is solid. It's covering its cost. We did this week. We made every week we get a payment, and there's nothing in there right now that's alarming. Sometimes it goes up in the summertime because people delay elected procedures and what have you, but overall the fund is really good. And then on October 1st, we will be shifting to the plan that the board approved, I believe at the last meeting. You took care of that. And the good thing is with the reinsurance and stop loss and all of that, it does put us in a good position with our $5 million carryover and then our expected revenues and all of that, that we should be able to hold this. And then one good note, I ran a little report today for Becky and just took it down. I'd actually forgotten that I had it, but it goes back to 2010 about all of the projection or the expenditures and receipts and what have you. And I'm pleased to say that I believe it was $36,000 in interest the health fund earned this year, and it was the first time on that report that we had earned any interest for the health fund. So we're projecting next year that number will be about $100,000, assuming, well, there's no reason to assume that that balance should go down very quickly, but I pointed to Becky, I said, that's a little more than I thought it was going to be, but $36,000 in earnings for interest, so that was good.
Thank you for that good news.
And this money just stays in that account?
Yes.
Whatever we don't spend, it gets carried over?
And the intent of that, and I'm going to talk a little bit more to get the budget of how we view that, but we're really a trustee for that account because we have expended those dollars as a school district into this fund for the purpose of buying health benefits. And quite honestly, if we just decided we're walking away from health and going out in a commercial account, that's not technically the school district's money to do with what it pleases. It would have to be utilized for the purpose of health benefits some way. So it does stay in there, and it will continue to accrue interest. And but it's nice. That didn't pay for quite all the administrative costs, but it sure did. It sure was good.
It's a good report. Thank you.
Excellent.
And then on the health fund, the financial statement that you have, I continue to just direct your attention. I mean, there's more specific information that's attached to all of this, but it's kind of cumbersome to wade through it. And so my whole idea a year ago was to put this onto a format that you can get a snapshot view of how we're doing. And when I take a look at it, the thing that I really want to zero in on is where are we in expenditures, in revenue compared to a year ago, and where are we in expenditures. And one thing that has been extremely beneficial to the school district, the expenditures for the current year overall have stayed well in line with a year ago. In fact, if you extract the building project, we really spent less, but some of that has to do with the fact that we had some kind of big expenses in last year unrelated to construction and what have you. But we are well positioned closing out this year, moving forward. But supporting information is available, and we'd be glad to answer any questions if you have questions. But I really like the snapshot version because that's what I look at.
Ms. Langford, on the revenue, and it's kind of like this for last year too, under what's that other, because this year we only collected 35% of it. Last year we only collected 40% of it, so that's not out of line with what was last year, but we're budgeting higher. What's in that other column under revenue?
Everything that just doesn't fit in there, I'd have to go back and look, and I've got a spread out sheet that can tell that, but it just doesn't fit in. It's not a locally derived tax fund. There are some activity funds that, but most activity funds are in the local part. I'll run a list for you.
I'm just curious because we are not collecting on it, but we didn't last year either. So, I mean, it's not like we collected 100% last year and we're only collected 35% this year. I just was wondering if maybe that was interest or? No.
Interest is in the local.
Oh, okay.
It is up there.
Okay.
And Shelley, can you help me? I'm sorry?
I'm not able to.
Yeah, but I did look at
I'm
because
sorry,
when
just
we were
looking at
doing the
the-
budgeting and we put all that together, and in fact, as we go through the meeting, I can go into Alio and come up with.
You probably did put that in there. Okay, I just was curious. It's fine. It's not.
There are just some things that there are revenue for that don't fit nicely into the educational program, but
Okay.
That's a good question. Thank you, Dr. Langford. Are there any public comments this evening?
Anybody sign up to speak?
Thank you, Pat. We move to the consent agenda. Again, items 7 and 8 have been removed. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
Thank you, Derek.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Deborah. It's been
My
moved.
comment is I just want to say thanks for getting the school resource officers back.
Yes.
Whoever did that, thank you.
Are there any other further comments? Being none, please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. The regular agenda goes down to, I don't know where we want to put, I think we could just start with appointing our board treasurer. Our board treasurer, Dr. Moss, are you handling this
I
agenda
can.
item?
The first one we'll talk about is appointing board treasurer for 2018-19 school year. According to state law, the board shall, on or before the 15th day of July, each year appoint a treasurer, and that has historically been your school finance person, which would be Dr. Ron Langford. So we recommend the board approve the appointment of Dr. Ron Langford as board treasurer.
Do I have a motion to approve the election of Ron Langford as our,
I will move that we appoint Dr. Langford as board treasurer.
thank you, Jennifer. It's been moved. Do we have a
I'll second.
Thank you, Derek. It's been moved and seconded. I assume there's no further discussion. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. And here's the one where Pat's hoping to get out of the deal.
Oh, I don't think that's going to happen. According to same state law, we have to appoint a board secretary, and that has historically been Ms. Pat Waldo, and administration recommends we continue with that.
I will move we appoint Pat Waldo as the board secretary.
Thank you, Jennifer. Is there a
I'll
second?
second it.
Thank you, Deborah. It's been moved and seconded that we appoint Pat Waldo as the board secretary. There being no further discussion, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, Dr. Langford. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Engagement letter for consulting services. Dr. Saketa.
As a result of the wonderful contribution we received from the CDGB funds through the city and the state, we have to comply with reporting for at least 3 years afterwards. It could be as long as 5, with some parts of that. And one of the sections of that is the low to moderate income participants and making sure that we fill out our reports correctly and adequately. The second one is reporting program income to determine if, when you get a grant, when you get a federal grant, we're not in the business to make money, and schools don't make money, but we have to prove that we're not making money, basically, that we're just basically covering the cost of our expenses. To do that, we engaged with Steve Etcher, with Marks Nelson, all through the grant process. It was a wonderful, streamlined process. He met with us and the construction group all the way through as the architect as well, to make sure that we were doing everything procurement-wise all the way through and paying people correctly and so on. And it was a very seamless process. Janet Earl and Shelley Toft and Sandra Cantwell and I met with Steve on the phone and talked about all reporting requirements, and we feel it's in the best interest of the district right now, at least a quarter by quarter, to make sure that we're reporting correctly and to engage Marks Nelson through Steve Etcher with that group. And then at some point, and hopefully in the near future, a quarter or 2 or 3 down the road, that we would be able to take care of that reporting by ourselves.
And do
So-
we pay for this out of the grant itself,
No.
or do we pay for this out of our general budget?
Yeah.
Or out of SPED, or?
Yeah, it wouldn't be out of the grant.
Okay.
So,
And we don't have anyone that could do that for us that already works for us. I mean, if we're already, because it says we're already collecting the data, so we can't do the reporting
yeah,
ourselves.
we're already collecting the data, and that's the people that work for us. We would like to be able to turn it over to our accounting office and the special ed department. That's why we want to only engage them a quarter at a time. The original proposal from Marks Nelson was for an annual or 1-year contract for $10,000 or whatever $2,400 a quarter is. And we decided that they amended that and are going to allow us to work with them the first and second quarter and then determine if we need to go further beyond that. So it's just engaging a quarter at a time.
I'll even note that this document appears to be subject to termination with 30 days advance notice.
Yes.
Do we have a grant writer anymore?
No.
No.
Okay.
Good point. If we had a grant writer, that might be their duties,
Well,
and they
that's what I was
could
wondering,
spend
yeah.
a significant amount of time getting schooled up at the onset.
I
Because
just-
Bailey had extensive involvement initially.
Right, that's why I was wondering, because that to me would be the person that would handle the reporting.
Exactly. That's exactly who would have handled it.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the engagement of Marks Nelson.
Thank you, Lori. It's been moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Brent. It's been moved and seconded that we engage Marks Nelson to file necessary quarterly reports required in compliance with the CDBG grant. There being no further discussion, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, doctors. That brings us to Ashley Jones with our HVAC dental plan recommendation.
Yes, and for this, I would like to have Jamie Brummett from Barker Phillips Jackson, Matt Harding from the Health Plan Advisory Committee, and Becky England, our benefits coordinator, come forward. And so just a little bit of historical information before we get into the presentation of what we're recommending this evening is Joplin Schools established a self-funded employee dental care plan effective in January of 1988. From that plan, funds for payment of dental claims are paid from the assets of Joplin Schools. The sponsor of the plan is Joplin Schools, the plan administrator and the plan supervisor is Joplin Schools, and the agent of service of legal process is Joplin Schools. And so this evening, we're going to bring a recommendation, or we are bringing a recommendation to you that would result in dissolving the self-funded plan as it is currently in place. And so I'm going to allow Jamie to kind of take over with the recommendation from the Health Plan Advisory Committee and the administration as it pertains to the dental plan.
Okay. Do we have the presentation? No, it's going to be up on the boards.
It's included.
Yeah, it's under it.
Oh, so you all have it there?
Uh-huh.
Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure before we got into a lot of details. So, hi, I'm Jamie Brummett from Barker Phillips Jackson. I came in and spoke with you guys previously about the medical. So today we're going to talk about the Joplin Dental Plan and the recommendations from the Health Plan Advisory Committee. So our agenda will talk a little bit about the current plans and cost, what our marketing process was, the results of that marketing process, the proposals, a price comparison, and answer any questions you have. So the next slide will tell you the current dental plans and costs. And I think it's important to understand, really, as Ashley said, you had a dental plan in place, you have a dental plan in place that is self-funded. So you take $8 per full-time employee and it goes into the fund each month, and retirees can contribute $8 into the fund each month. From that plan, what they do is they submit receipts to the district to be reimbursed. So it is not truly a dental plan. It is more of a reimbursement arrangement is a better way to look at it. So those receipts, when they come to the district, they can be reimbursed 80% of their first $50, so they can get $40 back, and then 50% of the next $550, which is $275. So annually, they can get a maximum reimbursement from the district of $315 for dental claims that they submit receipts for. So part of the reason, and I know if Matt wanted to say something, but this kind of came up in some of our medical discussions, was talking about the dental plan and the fact that it was self-administered, and there was a person at the district reviewing those claims, making determinations, and it was all being processed and done through the district rather than a separate administrator. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to look at it.
And that was that piece is really trying to streamline everything, because some of us had different plans with different people, and MetLife was a group that some of us were familiar with, and so it seemed like we had all these different angles, and nobody was on the same page. And so this is kind of a way to kind of streamline all of that and get everybody kind of on the same page, where everybody knows what everybody's doing, and our employees know who to go to, whether it's medical, dental, what it is. And so this is just a much easier process with the dental piece of it, because there's a lot of our employees had no idea what the dental plan even was, and that we even had one. So this will be a way to kind of get that out to them and show them what we got.
Yeah. As Ashley said, the district dental plan has been around for a very long time. And 3 years ago, we added the voluntary dental program with MetLife. So that is a full-blown dental program where they get preventive care services, so cleanings, x-rays, exams covered at 100%. And they get an annual max benefit of $1,000, but they purchase that on their own. It is completely voluntary for them to buy up for that benefit. So what we did then, on the next slide, you can see that we went out to market So you are currently with MetLife for your voluntary, so we went out to MetLife and asked them to look at the district dental. We went to Delta Dental and Guardian as well. Both have very strong networks in the area, so there wouldn't be a lot of disruption for your members. But their rates and rate caps were not quite as competitive as what we received from MetLife. And then we also asked United Healthcare to look at it because they are the new medical provider. But their network was not as competitive, so ultimately they were not recommended. What we asked them to do was look at a dental replacement, just a plan that would completely replace the current district dental plan. However, the carriers can administer this reimbursement arrangement. So we do have a quote from UMR for $4 per employee per month. They could do a reimbursement arrangement similar to what you currently have, but it would not be a dental program. Okay? So on the next slide, just shows you a quick, and this one's kind of hard to see, but from
Upside down.
And it's upside down. That'd be really hard to see. So we asked them to quote something that would be a replacement for that district offered dental. So what MetLife quoted was a plan that would allow employees and their dependents, because the district dental is for employees only. So this would give a very low-cost option that covers preventive care, basic services, major services, any covered dental benefit 50%. So it covers it at 50%, and they can get $500 worth of dental benefit in a year instead of the $315 that they were getting reimbursement on previously. So it enhances their benefit. It gives them the opportunity to access the MetLife network and the discounts associated with those dentists for these services, and an opportunity to put their dependents onto the plan as well.
Is that for retirees as well?
And it is available for the retirees, and we're also able to offer it to part-time employees as well. So on the dental price comparison, which is upside down, I didn't know if there was a way to flip it or...
Because it's part of the PDF.
It won't do it. Okay, that's fine. So in the dental price comparison, you guys each were given this in your packet, but you currently pay $8 per employee, full-time employee at the district. So that's an annual contribution of about $79,000. With MetLife, what the recommendation is that the district would contribute $11.67. That's the cost of single coverage for that plan we discussed. You would contribute that for each full-time employee. Then if they wanted to add their dependents or buy up, they would pay that additional cost, but the cost to the district would be the $11.67. That brings the district's annual cost to $115,813 a year. And that's an additional cost of $36,000 over current cost. And then we also have a second-year rate cap of 7%. As Dr. Langford mentioned earlier, the dental plan has a very large reserve right now. It's currently over $380,000 in this district dental reimbursement plan. So we looked at this, and with an annual 7% increase, you have 8 years worth of funding in your reserve to cover the additional premium that it would be to add in this richer benefit. There's enough in those reserves that it comes out to about 8.5 years. So we said 8 years being conservative.
And that's if they increase 7% a year.
If they increase 7% a year.
If they didn't, it would go further.
That is correct. And so in the initial presentation, the part that's upside down, I gave a history of where your voluntary dental plan, the increases you've experienced over the last several years, and that's a voluntary plan. Those are typically very highly utilized because people buy it because they need it. And your increases in the last 4 years, it was 9.9, 8.6, 6.4, and this year it was a rate hold. So they got to where they needed to be on those premiums, and it's been a rate hold. And again, that's on a very highly utilized dental plan that we don't anticipate that will be when you have 100% full-time enrollment.
And can I ask, that reserve is not stagnant, so that reserve is technically going to keep building up a little bit, right? So it's going to go
The
further.
interest, if it's an interest-bearing account, Dr. Langford.
Oh, it'll gain a little bit of interest, but it'll actually be going down because the thought was to use that up to pay the increase $3 a month until it's gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So that's where we estimated where you have the $36,000 that it's going to cost more than the current district reimbursement plan, that would come out of that reserve fund until that was spent down, which at a 7% increase each year would be about 8.5 years.
I'm sorry, I missed this. Is preventative 100%?
Preventive on the base plan. So there will be a recommended dental plan options that's in the presentation, but this base plan, it is 50%. So currently, they can submit a reimbursement for a cleaning and be reimbursed 50%. With this dental plan, they can go to a dentist, and it's covered at 50%.
So they don't have to submit?
They don't have to submit any receipts. They get the discounts if they go to a MetLife dentist, then they're getting those contracted discounts. Currently, if they don't have a dental plan, they're going in and getting the services and paying full cost.
And the maximum amount would be of coverage is $500?
$500 on this MetLife proposal. The current reimbursement is $315.
Did we look at what the price would be if all preventative was covered 100%?
It raises the
and then it was 50 on the rest of it?
Yes, ma'am, and it raises the premium to about $17. Where we're looking at $11.67. We did have proposals where I asked them to model 100% on preventive care. People will tend to utilize preventive care a lot more, and especially for dependents, because this plan is going to allow dependents to enroll. And so then you're going to get a lot more cleanings with the children and things like that. So that benefit being 100% will be much more highly utilized, and the premium would be much higher to a level that then the district wouldn't have the 8 years of reserves to be able to cover that. But they do have the option to buy up.
They can, okay.
And that plan has 100% on preventive. And so we'll discuss what those are.
Thank you.
So the recommendation from a Health Plan Advisory Committee was that the district no longer offer that reimbursement dental program. Just that way it takes that liability, that responsibility out of the district's hands, and also offers a richer benefit through MetLife for the district employees. We also recommend that you offer 2 dental plans. So this will be a base and a buy-up, where the base plan, the district will contribute $11.67 per full-time employee toward the plan they select. So if they choose employee spouse, employee child, the district is only paying $11.67 for them. Retirees can enroll in this plan and pay the full cost. Part-time employees can enroll in this plan and pay the full cost. There will be a base plan that is offered and a buy-up plan. So the buy-up plan is a richer benefit, and it gives them a $1,500 annual maximum instead of $500. And it also covers orthodontia. So the next slide, if it's not upside down, great. So that shows you the base and buy-up kind of side by side. So it shows you in-network and out-of-network, where the base plan preventive care is 50%. The buy-up plan, it's 100%. Basic services are 50% on the base plan. They're 80% coverage on the buy-up. Major services are 50 in each. On the base plan, the annual max is a $500 benefit. It's $1,500 on the buy-up. And then orthodontia is covered on the buy-up. Okay. And the next slide will show you the premiums and how that would come out for the employees. So when we worked through this, the other part of it is by applying that $11.67, for those employees who are currently on the buy-up, their premiums will actually go down. Because a full-time employee currently saying, I really want a good dental benefit, and buying that MetLife voluntary plan is paying $32.61 a month. So their price is going to go down to $22.45. And it's also going to go down for spouse, children, because of the contribution from the district to that employee-only coverage.
I think I just heard you say the premium, if we were to enroll everyone in the 100%, was going to be $17.
If we were to, well, what we've offered to you as a base plan was a 50-50-50, and that rate is $11.67. If the base plan was to be a 150-50 with the 500, that was $17. So the buy-up plan is 180-50 with a $1,500 maximum. So that's why it's $34, because it's a much richer benefit. Yeah.
And I thought maybe it was cheaper at 17 if all employees were doing it.
It
like
does.
Buying in
it
bulk,
does help.
basically.
It does help out, but that $17 was keeping, again, that annual maximum at $500, and those other benefits much lower.
Do we know what percentage of our employees are taking advantage of the current plan?
Currently, you have about 330 employees that take the buy-up plan, that take the voluntary plan.
But all full-time
Right.
employees have the option of participating in the dental reimbursement currently. And the result of the fund balance continuing to increase at the rate that it's increasing shows that we do not have a significant amount of participation in the reimbursement plan.
And we do think that with them, part of all of this is we've been working on educational videos, things that we're doing for open enrollment to engage them and educate them on their benefits. So they would be educated that they have this benefit. They would know that all they have to do is walk into their dentist and say, I have a MetLife dental plan, and they're going to get some benefits covered instead of having to manually submit receipts and remember to do that process. So it'll improve the benefit overall for them.
I just want to thank the committee for pursuing this and giving some options here, and I think this is really important, so thank you guys for the work you did. Thank you for how clearly you explained things.
Do we have a motion to approve the termination of the self-funded employee dental care plan that became effective January 1st, 1988, replacing it with a dental plan through MetLife as documented in the attached presentation that we just saw?
So moved.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Debbie. It's been moved and seconded that we terminate our self-funded plan and adopt the MetLife plan. Is there any further discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you all very much.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Ashley, we'll stay with you for the post-offer employment testing.
Yes, we have some representatives here this evening from Freeman Acumed. And Tara, you're welcome to join us at the table should the board have questions. So the district began pursuing this opportunity several months ago as a result of an evaluation of our workers' compensation claims. And also as an opportunity to ensure that we are hiring the right people in the right positions. And so this evening, we are bringing a recommendation to the board to engage Freeman Acumed in their post-offer employment testing services, specifically the Work Steps program. And the reason this evening for the recommendation to engage Freeman Acumed is because of the confidence in the on-site evaluation of essential functions testing, such as the actual physical demands required of the position and the evaluations of the condition and environment, the individualized functional capacity testing, so actual testing of essential functions. So, like for example, if we are hiring a food service worker who is loading and unloading an industrial dishwasher, at Freeman Acumed, one of the essential tests that a food service worker may engage in is actually bending to the appropriate level and lifting a tray the size of a tray that would be associated with the dishwasher at a specified weight to a level at which it would be lifted. And so potential employees would actually have the opportunity to engage in some of those specific tests, and along with the engagement in the test, receive some kind of on-the-job training as it pertains to appropriate lifting techniques and things such as that. And so we're really excited about that opportunity for potential employees. Another really important component that went along with our selection is the confidentiality and security of the employee data. And so individuals are going to be engaging in medical, physical, and then there's also data that's being collected as it pertains to the essential functions testing. And what we are excited about with Freeman Acumed is the information that the employer receives, that we would actually receive, is an indication of whether someone is capable, not capable because of a medical risk, or referring for additional medical clearance. So we will not have any of the specific data pertaining to the test results, and that is very important to the HR department and the district as a whole. In addition, the experience, training, and licensure of the professionals at Freeman Acumed is top-notch, and that is also important to us, and I've already spoken about the training component that's embedded into the testing. And so, do you have any specific questions as it pertains to this recommendation this evening?
I do.
Me too.
I've never, what brought this on to have it in the first place?
So,
If you don't mind, because I'm new.
Sure. So our workers' compensation insurance,
Right.
we look to find ways to reduce workplace injuries for our employees because we have expenses associated with that, and also we want to ensure that our employees are working in a safe environment. And so initial conversations this fall with our workers' compensation provider, MEM, we discussed this as an opportunity to ensure that we are hiring people who are capable of performing essential functions of the job in positions that require things such as lifting and bending. And we evaluated our injury report to determine which classifications and what types of injuries we're experiencing on the job.
So does it lower, by having this, does it lower, lower our workman's comp, because we're putting people in positions that can handle those job requirements? And two, does it reduce, I'm trying to think, I lost my train of thought
Well,
on that, what the second.
You are right on target with your first comment. The
Okay.
goal of this, again, would be that we would have a reduction in workplace injuries because our employees are capable of performing the essential functions. They receive some embedded training
Right.
as it pertains to lifting, bending, all of those things that people are doing on the job whenever they're performing manual tasks.
Okay.
So yes, the ultimate goal is that we would see a reduction in workplace injuries, which would in turn lower our cost associated with workers' compensation.
So on workman's comp, what's an average of what we're spending in workman's comp right now?
I believe that I have that information as it pertains to our premium. I have that here. So July 1st of 2017, our premium was $289,412. And on July 1st of 2018, that premium will increase to $344,806. So that's a $55,000 increase in 1 year. So
But in fairness to your question, part of that is related to the experience modification increasing, which that bigger than that 0.92 is not as good as the 0.82.
And
the others directly retired to the salary increases because it's all a percentage based on their salary.
Oh, got
So
you.
it's not 100% related to the experience, but the combination of the two.
I got
But
that.
the E-mod is based off of our experience tied to workplace injuries.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if our workplace injuries go down, does our E-mod rate go down?
Yes.
Hopefully. And the E-mod looks at 3 years of experience. So our experience for this year will be with us for 3 years. And then next year, our experience from this year will be with us for 2 more years. So our trends over time have an impact on us long-term.
So I remember what I was thinking. Sorry, Debbie. So if they are training the employees, what's coming in and looking at our program to see if we are supplying correct
Now, they're not-
workplace environment?
So they're not going to be training the employees, but as the employees are going through the essential tests, they're going to be showing them how to lift properly
Okay.
and things like that. So there's a component of embedded training, but they are
But
not
not the
responsible
full-
for training
right.
their employees. Yes.
So if I'm hired to be a building engineer custodian, and you offer me employment, but my employment is conditional upon me passing the test the assessments they're going to put me through.
That's correct.
And then how does this impact current employees? So all new employees will go through their assessments. What about current employees? How does this affect them?
That's a great question. And so the essential functions testing will be for new employees.
Okay.
So the only way that an existing employee would ever have to go through an essential functions test is if they were injured on the job and they have had a workers' compensation injury and they have been off work, and then to return to work, they would be required to go through this. In addition, if someone is off of work for an FMLA qualified event for 45 or more days, we would require them to go through the essential functions testing.
So if I have a heart attack, not at work, it's not a workman's comp, I have a heart attack and I'm off of work, under 45 days, I don't go through essential testing. But if I'm off work more than 45 days before I could return to my job, I would have to be assessed.
That is correct, and it is referred to as fitness to duty testing.
Fitness to duty.
So Ashley, do we take into consideration those potential employees that require accommodations?
Good question.
So for employees who require specific accommodations, the accommodations process would be a result of, so they would go through the essential functions testing and they would determine whether someone was capable or not capable of performing the task. Whenever we receive those results, we would engage in a conversation with an employee, and at that time, the employee may disclose to us that they have some sort of disability, and then we would work through determining whether or not the district could provide a reasonable accommodation
That
in
was my
compliance with
concern,
ADA.
making, you know,
Yep.
Yeah.
Have our classified staff given any opinion on this? Have they seen this program?
So we have a workers' compensation committee, and they have been involved in the discussions all year long. And those individuals on that committee are supervisors. And so whenever we started this process, Charles Virgin, who is here in the audience this evening, he is a custodian in our district, and he participated in the evaluation of the RFPs, and he also went on the on-site visits with us. And so Charles has had the opportunity and has had some exposure to this, and we've also engaged in conversation with Charles Sherry and Jim Ward, JESP, through the Labor Management Committee.
Okay.
So we have been having these conversations for quite some time. And I don't know if Charles would like to say anything this evening about the process, but you're welcome to.
Just real short and quick, I think it's an excellent program. I did get a chance to visit both sites. Freeman's program is much more comprehensive as far as what the employees will get tested for and go through. I was fortunate enough to work at Freeman when they started Work Steps, so I'm familiar with it. It can be a great asset and, you know, potentially save the district, you know, an unknown amount of money for somebody that comes in and you hire somebody off the streets and say they need a shoulder replacement. Well, they come in and now I've ripped my shoulder, and they go in, well, you got to have your shoulder replaced. Well, I did it on the job. Now Freeman, you know, Joplin's going to have to pay for that. This program will prevent that because, you know, if this employee can do this and gets hurt, well, then they got to rehab them back to this. The employee comes in and the employee can reach here and gets hurt on the job. Well, you rehab them back to that, and there's no compensation paid because the employee can't do this anymore. So, I personally think it's, you know, at layman's, I think it's a great plan. So.
Great. Thank you, Charles.
Thanks, Charles.
He did. He just nailed that explanation.
He did it in layman's terms.
Yes, in that the benefit here is to, whenever we do have a workplace injury, we have baseline data. So we know, well, we will not know, the district, but Freeman Acumed will know to what point we have to rehab someone back to. So is it 50% usage because whenever they were hired, that's the amount of usage they had in their left shoulder, or is it 100%? And so there will potentially be some cost savings for the district as a result of that. So thank you, Charles.
But Freeman would also indicate whether or not the potential employee is fit for duty, period. So they'd have to meet a minimum standard for their duty anyway. So.
I'll move that we approve the post-offer employment contract with Freeman Acumed.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's been moved, and Lori seconds. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the Freeman Acumed as qualified provider of comprehensive post-offer employment testing services. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You had a lot to say tonight. I appreciate that.
It was easy presentation.
Okay, I think I'm up next.
Yes. Student services salary schedule.
Yes, so since the May 22nd board meeting, which is whenever the board approved some salary schedules and also some salary increases for individuals who were not on schedules, we have continued work in the Human Resources Department and also in Student Services to evaluate compensation pertaining to some specific classifications. And as a result of that work, we bring some revised and some new salary schedules to you this evening. And so if it's okay with you, I'll just kind of roll through those different schedules. The first is the instructional sped para salary schedule. This is not a new schedule, but we've modified the schedule in that we've changed the title of the schedule, and we have also removed bus aides from the schedule. So bus aides now are on their own schedule, which will be important for us next year because we've had unit clarification, and so bus aides will be part of the collective bargaining process. And so really there are no changes to the dollar amounts on this particular schedule, but I wanted to share with you this evening that the title of the schedule has changed and the bus aides were removed from that schedule. A new schedule that we're bringing before you this evening is the behavior support personnel schedule, and you've heard us talk about our behavior technicians and our CBSS paras, which we are now referring to as behavior interventionists, and our behavior specialists, and the work that they do and the critical work that they do with children who have some exceptional needs here in our district. And we do have a problem with retention of those particular employees, and we are working to institute a training program for a particular behavior certification for those individuals. And so in an effort to be able to recruit and retain behavior technicians and also the behavior interventionist, we have modified the schedule to include a $1 per hour increase for behavior interventionists. And then if the behavior technicians and the behavior interventionists complete the certification program, and it's called the Registered Behavior Technician Certification, they would then be entitled to an additional $1 per hour increase. And then the next schedule that we're bringing to you this evening is really a new schedule, and it was created to formalize an existing practice, and that is for our parent educators. And so there was a practice in place for compensation and movement as far as compensation is concerned, but it was not a schedule that had formally been approved by the Board of Education. So we've taken that schedule and we've established it kind of in compliance with all of our other support staff schedules with the 18 steps. And so that is also in your packet this evening. And then the final schedule is a schedule for other related services, like our certified occupational therapy assistants, our nursing coordinator, our physical therapy assistants, our speech language pathology assistants, and this is also a new schedule. And again, being developed in an effort to recruit and retain highly qualified personnel, and really it will serve as a foundation to support future efforts to be competitive within the market for those positions. And these positions are very challenging for Joplin schools because we do have medical providers in our community that are very competitive. So with this consideration this evening, there is an estimated increase of approximately $40,516.41, and this is equal to 6.85% of the total salaries for these classifications. So when we take the salaries that they're currently earning and the salaries they would be earning with these schedules in place, it's an increase of 6.85%.
Can I just ask, the school district I worked for, they had one scale, basically 43 was the same, 44 was the same, 45. When you look at these, like 44 and 45 are different for one than they are for the other.
So-
Would it not make more sense to have one, like from whatever, say 40 to 55 or whatever, and that's the same, and then by job description, you just place them on there rather than saying, I'm on level 44 or whatever of the behavior support salary schedule, I'm not on 44 of the instructional sped paraprofessional salary schedule. Wouldn't it make more sense to just have one across the board and then just assign that job description wherever they fit on that salary schedule?
Kind of like what we did with the district support and the administrator schedule. Possibly, this is the system that's been in place for Joplin, and actually everything that's highlighted in red in your document, those are things that to me are not really important, but to finance may be very important because of how the schedules are established within our HRIS and payroll system. So that may be something to consider moving forward.
Just you can have
just
a
of
certified, or then you can have classified. Those can be different, but you know, you may be set at level 44 of the whatever, and it just might be easier to place people rather than trying to figure, and rather than, I guess, having a different wage for everything, trying to figure it out. It just seems more confusing this way rather than just having a.
I have a couple questions. Okay, so piggybacking on what Jennifer said, so if I'm a sped para at step 45-1, I'm getting $13.68. But if I'm a behavior intervention specialist, step 45-1, I'm getting $13.02, so I'm making less money. Now, I know I can go take that test and make $1 more an hour, but why am I making less at 45-1 to be a behavior intervention specialist than I am just being a regular sped para?
Well, column 45 on the instructional sped para schedule exists because we have one person who's paid according to that column. Okay. So if you look down, there is no specific classification tied to that column. So it is strictly utilized for one person who's placed there, and it is historical, and we do not place anyone there currently. But we can't take it away because we have someone who's paid according to that column currently. So if we hire a paraprofessional, or if we hire a behavior technician or behavior supports, if we hire a behavior technician, they're going to make the same rate of pay as a sped para currently, unless they have obtained that certification. Then they would earn $1 more. Right. If we hire a behavior interventionist, they will receive $1 more than a starting instructional or sped para. And if they have the certification, they would earn $2 more.
Where does it say I'm getting the $1 more raise?
If you look at the particular schedule for the behavior support, The codes at the bottom indicate either column 43 or 44, or
Okay.
column 44 and 45, and it's specific to without or with the certificate.
So a behavior interventionist makes $1 more plus $1 more, but a behavior technician doesn't make $1 more than a SPED para unless they get training.
That is correct.
And then my other question about the training is, where do they get that training, and do we pay for the training?
The training would be through Crowder College.
Okay.
And as it pertains to the payment of that training, I do not have an answer to that question.
And is that training during the day, so we'll have to have subs for them while they go down to get that training? And is it one-day training, one-week training?
I will ask Sandra.
Sandra Cantwell, do you know?
It's like 18 college hours, and it's in the evening, and a lot of it is online.
And so if it's a college hour, they're paying tuition, or are we paying their tuition?
We haven't made a decision to pay their tuition.
So in order to get the dollar raise, I'm going to have to spend money on tuition? Yeah?
I would love to pay for their tuition, but.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just asking. Okay, can they qualify for financial aid for that? Okay. And we're not requiring they get that training. We're just saying, if you get that training, we'll give you $1 more an hour. Okay.
Or already have it. Yeah.
Or already have. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Ashley, very much for putting these schedules together and explaining them to us. Do I have a motion to accept these salary schedules?
So moved.
Thank you, Derek. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Brent. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. That moves us to Dr. Moss with presentation of the strategic plan updates.
Yes. First of all, I want to compliment the district in embarking on starting the development of a strategic plan that is obviously standing the test of time and addressing our three main filters for student readiness, learner support, and being efficient and effective. You know, we've always said children are safe, learning, and fiscal responsibility are our filters, and that's still the case. We do have minor language adjustments, and these were born out of forum meetings with our student forum, parent forums, and teacher forums. And I will point your attention to the items that are under first student readiness. If you look under success indicators of that, it was unanimous among the three forums that they felt that students taking algebra in 8th grade was almost more a reflection of developmental pace and readiness of the student, and not quite sure that that was an adequate success indicator of whether we were meeting the challenges of student readiness. So they suggested that that one be stricken, and because we don't want to put a student in 8th grade algebra until they're ready for that. So, and then also they suggested striking the gifted education portion of that third indicator, because that is so tied to IQ score, and there's some mandates and some policies and procedures associated with that. So they felt like that might not be as appropriate in terms of, you know, what we do to influence that. So those were the suggestions there. And then if you look at the next part under learner support, we've had 3 elementaries that have been deeply involved in the Shipley model classroom training, and it's using that language in 2.2.2 where it says classrooms meeting classroom model expectations. So minor semantic change. They felt like since not all buildings had that intense in-service, we would change that to expectations of continuous improvement, which fits more with the overall language of the district. And then finally, another minor semantic change under efficient and effective. 3.2.3, providing supports that meet the behavioral needs of all students as opposed to saying behavior needs. So Out of all of our reviews, we've had 4 quarterly meetings this school year, very active participation in each. And I also want to commend that central office, even though they weren't required to, Dr. Gilbreth, Sandra Cantwell, Dr. Saketa, Ashley were very much active in attendance at all 4 of those because they said that feedback helped with their departments as well. So I want to brag on the over and above that they did as we facilitated those meetings. So that is what I have to present to you this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Moss. Do I have a motion to approve the strategic plan updates for 2018?
I move.
Thank you, Deborah. It's been moved.
I'll second.
Thank you, Derek. It's been moved and seconded that we accept these updates to our strategic plan language. Please vote.
I have a question
Sure.
first, if that's okay. On this, so to me, the strategic plan is us setting that expectation for ourselves. These are the expectations we have of ourselves that we're going to do. So taking out that algebra and that gifted education, are we doing that because kids are not qualifying for algebra? Because I know our math scores are getting better and we're changing. Dr. Gilbreth with his curriculum is changing that, and that's something that we're focusing on getting better at. So I don't want to ding it.
No.
But is that because kids are not qualifying for those, so it looks bad?
No.
That we're not hitting that, and so we're changing that expectation? Or is that just really not indicative of success in that area?
I think the feeling was that it's not as indicative of success in that area, and more specifically, if we're saying, okay, we've got to have every kid in 8th grade taking algebra before we feel like we've arrived in our strategic plan, I don't want any pressure on people to put inappropriately placed students that aren't ready to handle that at the 8th grade level. And I think that was more the discussion. We're always going to be pushing for higher math scores, more readiness in that area, and it is a win if everybody appropriately takes that. But to just mandate, okay, now all 8th graders have to take it, might be setting some students up to fail initially, and we don't want to do that.
Because I mean, 'cause it's good to have those goals, that we're going to have higher
Absolutely.
enrollment in our gifted programs, and that we're going to have our kids, that's sort of an expectation of them. And you're always
Right.
going to have those kids that
And
aren't
under our
going to,
current
but-
criteria for gifted, we have had a higher percentage qualifying as well, from what I've heard. And there's even been talk about, do we need to raise some of those standards? But as far as making IQ part of that, in this context, they just felt like it might not be as appropriate.
And I don't think I was interpreting students taking algebra in 8th grade as all students should take algebra in 8th grade. I was interpreting it more as maybe an increase in the number of students taking algebra in 8th grade. So, but maybe the committee viewed that as everybody should be in 8th grade algebra, which obviously is not true. So was there any discussion to modify that from saying students take algebra in 8th grade to an increase in the number of students taking? I just don't want to be lowering the standard.
Right. No,
It feels a little like
I don't
that.
remember that that was specifically discussed in terms of just changing the statement in some way. It was more, we just feel like this puts pressure to maybe inappropriately place.
But we still have 8th grade algebra as
Oh,
an option for
absolutely.
those that are developmentally ready for it.
Absolutely.
One other
Yes.
point to that too, 7th grade kids that qualify are still eligible to take algebra. So there, we do raise the rigor of that. And another piece of that too is that now that so with Common Core ratcheting up that whole notion of mathematics, algebra has been brought, the algebraic concepts have been brought down in grade levels, so that really it's kind of a moot point on a couple different levels.
Okay.
We have a motion. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, Dr. Moss. Accounts payable, Dr. Langford.
Again, the information has been posted, and you've had it available for the payments for this month, which is something over 9.5. I thought that's quite a bit of money, but it is. We're meeting a little bit later this month. And if you look back last year, at the same time, it was over 10 million. So we're in there, as far as the numbers are concerned. But I would recommend to you that you approve the bill listing, and we'd be glad to try to respond to questions. The last one you asked, I didn't do a good job at, but I'm going to come back to that one. But we'd be glad to answer any questions you have, but certainly in line with our expectations.
I will move we pay bills in the amount of $9,576,433.14.
Second.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Deb. It's been moved and seconded that we approve our accounts payable. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Staying with you, Dr. Langford.
Okay, if we could, Mr. President, with your indulgence, I would like to move up the budget adjustments because they tie more into the next two items tie with next year.
Certainly, item 9.
And actually, that is really just a technical thing that we are doing, is just making sure that we have included these adjustments as were listed. For instance, activity fund adjustments, well, at the end of the year, then we make the adjustments to more clearly reflect the activities, or if we did buy the Chromebooks, but we want to make sure that there was a budget adjustment, which we did that back in February. You've approved Franklin Tech adult programs, and so this is just kind of a routine, making sure when the auditors come that they can see evidence the board has had a hand in this process. So I would recommend that you approve these budget adjustments, which it shows a decline in fund balances, and I'm going to talk more about that when we get into the budget process, but overall the district is in excellent financial condition, even with these adjustments.
Thank you, Dr. Langford. Do I have a motion?
I move we approve budget adjustments.
Thank you, Debbie. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Derek. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the budget adjustments recommended by Dr. Langford this evening. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. So-
Okay. The item that I asked you to delay, because it does tie with the next budget, but if you recall at the last meeting, and last year at the June meeting, you did this action relative to the year that was just concluded. I feel much more comfortable of doing it at the outset, because it certainly expedites the process as you think about capital projects going forward. And again, come back and say, when the board acted, I believe it was in the February meeting, to approve the capital projects budget, and Dr. Saketa and I talked about that this week, that he's just amazed that the process that has been made toward getting projects finished, and they're being finished now ahead of what we'd anticipated. And my question to him was, why is that? He said we were able to get started sooner. Now, we're not asking you to spend any money, but there is a provision of statute that requires the board to approve a transfer of funds from the incidental to the capital projects fund, and that's a portion of the state funds that we give, and we can transfer that to the capital projects fund. In that the school district has no levy in the capital project fund, there's no other way to get money in there than to make the transfer. This would be going forward, just getting an approval. Instead of doing it on the back side of the year, it makes more sense that for the planning purposes, to do it on the front side. So this action has nothing to do with the year we are now completing, but is totally about next year. And then instead of making a big transfer in June, we would be able to do a monthly transfer in there, and we just keep those monies available in the capital projects fund, because we are expending money out of it now, and it's just replenishing kind of the spend. So at the end of the year, you do have a balance, because I will tell you, in your capital projects fund, you're only a breakdown of a major air conditioner away of having to spend some big dollars. So my recommendation would be that the Board of Education authorize us to do a transfer from the incidental to the capital projects fund in the 2018-19 school year, and those funds would be expended in that year or following years for the purpose of maintaining buildings, purchasing equipment, vehicles, perhaps real estate parcels in the fiscal year 19 and 20 and those years thereafter.
Thank you, Dr. Langford.
Dr. Langford, it says you can actually transfer less than the maximum authority, and the maximum is 7%?
Well, there's a calculation.
Okay.
And we transferred $3,400,000 and about $88,000 this year.
Okay.
because the state adequacy target is going up, that will elevate the amount that we could transfer.
Okay.
So we estimated 3,500 or 3,500,000. Now that is the allowable, whatever the allowable amount is. That calculation can be changed, and if need be, we might come back and revise that. In addition to that, you also, your bus depreciation would be in addition to that, because that's what we buy school buses with. Or if you buy something in food service, because that's sort of an enterprise fund, then you can, we can't place food service money in the capital projects fund, but we can transfer to the capital projects fund from food service to replace a refrigerator or something like that. So there would be other transfers in addition to this. But this is near the amount that we believe the calculation would be. Probably it might be just a little bit more than that, but not materially.
So if we're being proactive with this, which I appreciate that we're being proactive, are we going to transfer the maximum amount up front, and then if we don't spend it all?
Our intention, no, then you keep it as a fund balance
Then you
for
keep
the
it in the
future.
fund balance, okay.
That's the key for your future projects that are going forward. And this is, if you go back to 2003, the district on the average has transferred $3.8 million. So we're right in the range of what we've been for 15 years. But you got $300+ million worth of facilities, plus you are now buying computers, which you weren't in 2003 buying. And to say, to have a fund balance of about 1% of the value of your capital assets is not
much.
Not much.
And it's not taking anything away from salaries.
I will tell you, like we answered that question last week, if we did not spend that, you would have more money for salaries. But then at some point, the people who you are paying will ask why they can't get the roof in their leaking classroom fixed.
Yeah.
So it's all a part of the big package.
Right.
I move.
That we, go ahead, Brent.
Lori
second.
has
No.
moved, and
Brent can make that motion.
Lori moves, and Brent seconds, that we approve the transfer of the allowable, the total allowable transfer from the incidental fund to the capital projects fund. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, Doctor. At this time, I would ask if anybody needs a break. Keep on motoring. That's a tough group. I like that. Okay.
Now, that could
takes us-
change in 2 minutes, but.
Okay, Dr. Langford, we're going to stay with you and go to the big budget for 18 and 19.
Okay, the first thing I will do was try to resurrect myself from the incompetence of the response of the last question about miscellaneous. Quite honestly, I don't pay too much to that. In fact, I hadn't paid that much attention to the budget. If you look at the recommendation, that budget was kind of artificially high anyway, and I hadn't paid much attention to that. But here's some things that I found. There's some Franklin Tech funds that occasionally get in. There were some special service funds that went in there. There was a Best Buy grant at one time.
Oh, yeah.
It's just things that come in. If people would make a donation, if we looked at an outdoor classroom that someone donates for, just money that's not reoccurring.
Right, and you're
money.
back on the capital.
No, I'm back on
Thank you.
the answer to the
Jennifer's
question about
question.
miscellaneous
That's
revenues.
miscellaneous income revenue.
Oh, miscellaneous income that was
Yeah.
asked at the beginning
So
of the
I'm
meeting.
trying to
Yeah, that was-
respond
I'm
to
sorry.
that.
Yeah.
I'm following.
And that was a good question, because what was
It
in that?
was.
1.5 million or something?
1.3, I think it was.
And if you'll notice, in our budget, I had cut that back almost $1 million in projection, because it just was not there. It had not been occurring in the past. So I went back and looked in the ALIO, and so there are things posted in miscellaneous revenues generally that are more one-time, non-recurring revenues.
Right.
And they can be from a whole host of different things.
That makes sense.
So this is the 18-19 budget.
We are
we're
ready
discussing.
now. I'm responding to that, and then we're going to go to the recommendation. I would like to say that a year ago at this time, my plan was to be somewhere else next week. And the change of now I'm here again. And as of around March 27th, my life changed drastically. And I will tell you, it's been a very challenging 4 months until this last week. If you remember, the reason I came on March 27th, because February 27th, Susan Smith, who had done a wonderful job for a number of years in carrying out her work, informed us she was accepting employment somewhere else. We had to interview and hire, and I will say that Shelley Toft is here, done a tremendous job. And, at this point, she's tired of me coming in her office all the time because I interrupt her as she's trying to get her work done. But we were on a real learning curve. And my biggest concern until the time that Shelley came along was the biggest issue we'd have not getting people paid. And so here I'm doing payroll. So for the month of March until April 9th when Shelley came, we're dealing with that. Also knowing that the state, the fund codes were all going to have to change. And they've known for a couple of years, but still, everything takes so much time. And it's got to be in place by July 1st. Actually, there had not been much movement in the district, but yet at the same time, the guidance from the state, everybody was still trying to figure it out. We did not even go to the state program in Southwest Missouri till April 17th, which was the second week that Shelley was here. And she kept, in Springfield, we had to hold the door because she was trying to jump out every stoplight on the way home. But, so we had a lot to do with coding. And when you're talking about 7,500 codes, and then eliminating 4,000 of those codes, and then adding back almost 3,000 again to split it out, that was not an easy task. And so our time was really consumed, and our goal was by June 1st to have that work done. Well, by June 5th, we had that work done. So it's now in the process of our vendor as far as our accounting system is concerned. And then at that point, we transitioned to the budget process. And all this time, we're still trying to get people paid. Shelley takes care of all of that, but we had some great help, tremendous help out of the Student Services Office, and I really commend the federal staff that we've got there. And everybody's worked real hard to get this done, but we take a look at the budget. And I've done budgets before, but everybody does budgets differently, so when you pick up someone else's budget, it's a learning curve about the budget, but learning about the financial system and learning about the budget as they had done it. So, and we're now down to about a 3-week window of getting this done. A budget is nothing more than a best guess based on the information you have today. And I will tell you today that what you're going to look at is not a perfect document, and it's going to be, we're going to be working on it all this year to try to get it shaped a little bit more, shaped a little bit differently than what you have seen. And so when we take a look at the budget that we've had, sometimes you can set yourself you can set yourself an extremely high expenditure target, which means you will never exceed it, which there's some degree of safety in doing that. And then you can set yourself a, kind of a revenue that's not necessarily accurate, as reflective of the day-to-day true operations. So my goal was to come in. The budgets you've seen in the past were quite a bit narrative, and I wanted to get it where I could understand it. So trying to deal with more actual numbers at the beginning. So fiscal year 17, when you look at that in the comparison data, we tried to look at that. We still, when you're doing a budget in June, and we've got 3 payrolls yet to do, and I really won't be able till next Monday morning be able to run the actual final expenditures for this year, so you're just in a big guessing game. But having said all of that, we've arrived at a budget. And I will tell you today, the budget we're recommending to you now is $11 million less than the budget you approved last year. That's kind of a surprise. How did we get there? There's a significant thing that we are recommending that you allow us to do. The health fund in the past has been treated as an operational expense, and it's been carried out in Fund 1. The 4 funds that are basically the operational funds, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1's your general fund, 2 is your special or teachers fund, 3 is your debt service, 4 is your capital projects. And so when the district would set aside or would pay on behalf of a participant their health premium that was expensed as an operational expense. But that amount then was immediately received as an operational revenue. So that when the premiums were paid, then it became an operational expense again. So you would set up $7.4 million anticipated receipt and $7.4 million anticipated expense to offset each other. So we talked to our auditors, we looked at the audit, and Shelley and I both agreed that that is very complicated to try to maneuver through that. And so in the audit, it's referred to, if you would look in your audit right after the financial page, it talks about the fiduciary account of the health fund. We're acting the trustee of the fiduciary account, and we administer that. Nothing will change in our operation of it. You still get your monthly reports just like you've always done. But when we run our financials between funds 1 through 4, those monies will be extracted. And the other thing it does, when you look at the Joplin budget, and when you're telling the public you're approving a $96 million budget, as was the case last year, and $96 million is $11 million more than what we're recommending this year because of the health fund and also the building of the early childhood center. So that's, you take those two out, then we are spending more money for operations than we did a year ago. But still, the message to the public is, boy, that's a lot of money that you spend. When in actuality, it does, $11 million of that really did not relate to the ongoing operations for the educational purposes. So there's a difference that you will see. You know, I met with the Finance Committee the other evening, and I'm going to do an abbreviated version unless you want to be here 3 hours, and I don't really think you want to do that. But have you got that up? I didn't ask you to do that. And we're not going to go page by page, but I would be glad to ask you, answer any questions. But what I do want to do is the budget message, you've had access to that. I would like to look at the projected revenues and expenditures for next year. And let me tell you, let me also say that when we make adjustments and recommend budget adjustments to you this year, I can assure you that those adjustments will all result in a more favorable position as far as the school district is concerned. And so that is a very, that's a good thing to say, because when you develop a budget, approve a budget, you've not just impacted next year, you've impacted subsequent years going forward. You need a strong foundation to go on. If you would go down to the first set of numbers that we have, which is the revenue and expenditures, we'll just take a look at that right quick. This is what I used to refer as a budget recapitulation. I could have just said recap, but I kind of like the word recapitulation. I didn't put it on there. But anyway, of going in, and what we're wanting to do is to say we're projecting a balance of June 30th. That balance, along with unrestricted funds, with the new revenues, generates you available dollars in the amount of whatever is listed there. And then we're projecting expenditures. And we did this by fund. And the significant thing to look at is the fact that we are not deficit spending in the general fund. I believe that our balance ultimately at the end of the year will be better than that a year from now. The teachers fund, typically it's a matter of transferring in to pay all of our bills, so that's always a zero. Debt service is showing something. We're going to look at those numbers again, and those numbers could change, may not be quite that high. And when we look back, once we get our assessment numbers in, we may see that number go down and some of that money move back to the general fund once we take a look at that. Capital projects fund, we will see a little bit of growth in our fund balance for next year. But based on the expenditures we are projecting in the capital projects fund with the monies that are there, those funds will be positive, and that is good. So we're not deficit spending, and that's significant. If you could go to the next page, Eric. I do want to point out a couple of things here. What I've done is developed our local revenue sources, and if you'll notice miscellaneous revenue, Jennifer, down there. That number's not $1 million something now. It's down in the 600,000. Since we don't really depend on those are usually, I'm giving you that money for this reason. It's not an operational impact item, even though it could be a nice amount. But we did reflect lesser amounts than what you saw in the budgets. We used in that financial report the numbers that were in the budget that was approved, that you approved last year. Also, one thing I'm very pleased about, earnings on investment, right there in the middle.
Just saw that in 2017 to now.
17 or $1,227 in 2017. And I'm very, very comfortable with the $600,000 because we've already booked by December well over $300,000 in earnings. In the MOSIP count alone, not even counting what we get with our bank. So if you add those two together, that number will probably be quite a bit better than that. If you take a look at our local revenue in total, you're seeing that we're losing money. And somebody might say, well, gee, why are we losing money? Well, it's very explainable. If you would look at the in lieu of taxes, remember we got that windfall this year from the city, the $800,000, and we won't get that next year, so we'll go back similar to what we were the year prior. And then when we did the refinancing of bonds last fall that saved us $2.8 million, in part of the refinancing, the way they structured the bond sales, we yielded a premium of $2.5 million, so that is in there. So if you back those out, well then our revenue next year from the local sources will be better. County sources are going to be stable. If you go to the next slide, Harry, the foundation formula, the state funding, go back down, go back one. Go back one more, keep going. One down, stop right there. Foundation formula, we're projecting about a $1.2 or $1.12 million increase. There are two reasons for that. One has to do with the foundation formula thresholds. There was a modification that was voted on about 4 years ago, and the result of that is the funding formula was brought back more to its original oriented as it was, and so if everything just stayed equal, we didn't raise any kids, number of kids or anything, Joplin schools will benefit due to the threshold change. Now that won't ever happen again under this formula. So we're seeing some money there. And then we've also projected some increase in our summer school. Those numbers will be even refreshed as we go forward this year, and we're optimistic to see those numbers improve. But state funding for the district, and if you read the article in Joplin Global over the weekend, that kind of reflects, was quoted in there of about between $1.1 and $1.2 million. So that's money that we see. Everything else really goes along just pretty consistently. And then if you would look at the federal, skim down through there, and if you would go to the next slide again, there's an area where you're going to see a significant drop in revenue. We're going to see a reduction because the FEMA funds that we got last year, the 6.8, or in this current year, $6.8 million. We've gotten those. We won't get those again. And then also the money that we received, the federal money for the construction of the Early Childhood Center. So you back those out, Joplin then will be getting back to its more normal federal amount. It's had a period of several years of getting a lot more federal money for various reasons. And typically, school districts get about 10% of their operations from that. And so we have reflected all of that.
Dr. Langford?
Yes, ma'am.
Why are Medicaid reimbursements going down? They're down about 30%. Is that we're getting less reimbursed per claim?
Medicaid is interesting in that I remember we were dealing with that, and boy, that's like herding chickens.
Yeah.
Medicaid is based upon your having a person on your staff rendering a service to a student, and you're documenting the time and then billing for those services for which they could be billed from another outside entity. Right. And that's contract through the Missouri School Boards Association. So I talked to Janet about that a little bit. We don't know where they're going to be, but we sure don't know that they're going to go up because it's all about the students you have and then capturing all of the billing.
Right.
and then getting it to our contracted service through Missouri School Boards Association. So that's what that's about. That's kind of a fluid number. I didn't mention one thing that had not been projected as a revenue in years past that we put in there, the excess cost funding in state revenue. In the past, that had never been reflected as a revenue. We are reflecting it, and that's where you have a student, anytime a student, the cost of dealing with a student exceeds your district's cost by 3 times, then you bill above that. So we have added those funds in. And then if you look at the miscellaneous revenue, here you go. Bond proceeds sales, $24 million. It wasn't in everything about the refinancing we did not put in that monthly financial statement because it skews it so much. So that was backed out. But that's just some one-time money that came in that's being held to help us eventually achieve the $2.8 million savings. So we refinanced the bonds, we got that money. Now that's done, it's being held in escrow and handled from there. So at the end, you will see last year we had $123 million, but 27 million of that had to do with the refinancing of the bonds. We backed the health fund out, all of these comparisons at the bottom to get us back to the bottom. And then if you back out the early childhood center, we're looking at about an $85 million budget. And if you look at 17, we're less than 17, but again, we've begun the early childhood center in that year. So to me, this kind of comparison, you can look at it and see. If you look at the revenue projection, if you go to the next page, and we're only going to look at one sheet here unless you have more questions. But what we've done, now you get the money, it's where do you put the money? And so you distribute the money either based on statute or decisions of the board. And so there are some monies that we have to place there. There's no ands, if, buts about it. But I would like to point out on intangible taxes, M&M surcharges, and in lieu of taxes. In prior years, some of those funds had been placed in the debt service fund. That was mandated up until 2003. And we have moved that out. Last year, actually, we parked a little bit of that in the capital projects fund to help us get the FEMA money that we were trying to build a pool to pay off those bonds that are coming, the Bank of America bonds that are coming due in 2020, with the intent then of putting it all in the operations. But that gained us $496,000 toward operation of money that was being placed there that no longer had to be placed there. So that's what we've done. So if you look through all of these are all of your projections of the revenue and how it balances out. And then if you would go 3 or 4 more pages over, we get to the expense side. Again, this looks different than what you've had in the past. It was more of a narrative form. And then you would get a list that was generated out of Alio that was, to me, this gives you an idea of where the money's going. And so we took the account code areas that actually we were able to print out, and were able to do a comparison by years. 17 is more actual. 18 is still an estimate because at the time we were doing that and the time we had to look at this, they were estimating, and then 19, of course, definitely is an estimate. So for the comparison of where we're expending the money in those account areas relative to instructions, relative to administration, operation of the school district, you can get a picture of what's actually happening right there. And then if you look to the final pages of the expenditure, we do that just as we did in the revenue, is, okay, and what funds are these being expended? So there's where you have your expected projection budget. And honestly, the important work of the budget and then the important work of the administration or the oversight of this operation is that you approve our expenditures. The revenue is technically nothing more than information that helps you make the decision about what our expenditure plan. And when you approve the expenditures, then we have to stay within the fund total guidelines. We could wind up spending a little bit more in summer school than what you have down. That's not a problem. But in total, we cannot spend by any fund, in any fund, more than you've authorized us. And then that's the importance of budget adjustments. When you come in and say, we need to adjust our budget because we're going to spend more. If we knew that, in fact, we had enough, we wouldn't have to do a budget adjustment. But this just kind of helps, that's the intent of the budget adjustments. So what we're doing, when you get to the bottom, we are in essence asking you tonight to approve an expenditure, or authorized expenditure in the amount of $85,467,104. If you looked at that same budget that was approved a year ago, that number was $96 million. By taking the health fund out, it gets us to a more realistic number, and we don't have the expense of the early childhood center. So those two things are the reason for the gap on that. But it does, we do believe that the salary increases, the adjustments that, I told Ashley today as we had the administrative meeting, the group that she was talking about on adjustments have some of our most challenging situations that we deal with every day, and very deserving of that. But now's the time. You've worked on getting your salary schedules in place. That's critical going forward. Now you've got a more set plan going forward based on the work that was done on the salary schedules, not just for teachers, but some of those areas that the board had concern about. So a lot of work's been done. This is a year to do that, and we get it all lined out. The financial condition of the district will be good next year, and then it puts you in the position so that Dr. Moss and her leadership team going forward will be able to make sound recommendations to implement educational programs that benefit the kids. And I've always said, education's in the Board of Education and leadership, it's really about resource allocation. And we can't go out and just arbitrarily determine we can raise our prices. We can't go out and just automatically try to get a bigger market share. We have so many dollars, and the critical thing is we allocate them to the best use. And hopefully through this budget, and as we go through this budget, working close, I told Shelley, get ready, because we're going to be making some adjustments, and she's very patient with me. I appreciate that. But I believe that the district's in position to go forward next year and in the years to come.
Thank you, Dr. Langford. Having served on the Finance Committee this year for the first time, I got to see firsthand these lines with other members of the group, and we appreciate the work that you put in presenting this budget for board approval. Do I have a motion to accept the 2018-19 budget?
I'll move we approve the budget as presented.
Thank you, Jennifer. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Derek. It's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion?
I
Yes,
just have
Jennifer?
one question. Dr. Langford, the budget transfers that we approve, you said we're doing them at the beginning instead of at the end of the year. So are those built into this budget?
Yes.
I should have asked that at our
And
meeting.
if you would notice, there is one change if you look at what you took home. Sometimes I do my best thinking on my lawnmower. So when I came in, I told Shelley, I said, Shelley, we need to make one change. This revenue that we're transferring, I had listed as a revenue. If you go to the financial page, or there's a page, and we just moved it down from revenue. It's not a revenue, it's transfer. So it's reflected, the $3.5 million, as a transfer to the capital projects fund on that balance sheet.
Okay, perfect. Just thought of that as we were talking. So thank you.
Any further discussion? There being none, please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you again, Dr. Langford. Let us adjourn for 5 minutes. I'd like to see some people sprinting, please.
We're only on 11.
I know, I look.
We're back. We're trying to get this deal going. So, yes, on the agenda, the next item on the agenda is number 10, but is number 11, but we're going to skip to number 16 because the Honorable Kyle Denham is here to discuss the Columbia Safe Room. Dr. Saketa and Mr. Denham.
All right, well, thank you, and sorry about the wait, Kyle.
My fault.
You don't want to hear the rest of our meeting before you come out?
As you know, we've had Columbia Safe Room has been out of function as a safe room, but we've been approved and been able to use it just for general purposes, gymnasium and those kind of things for the students and staff. But we want to make sure it's back to code, make sure that everything's right. So Kyle is here and Dave Pettit to talk to you about the arduous process that we had to go through to make sure that we get everything correct.
Probably in the fall of 2016, there was some pieces of concrete that had fallen from the ceiling, noticed by, I think, the coach or the PE instructor. So we started looking into that, trying to determine what caused those issues. And at first, we really thought it was the connections of the precast concrete roof panels and wall panels that failed. But we had some different engineers come through and some geotech testing, and we've determined that it's really more some poor soil conditions that have caused that, which was really kind of surprising because we have some very wide and deep footings for the FEMA shelters. The footings are designed not to carry the load of the structure, but to prevent the structure from blowing away in a tornado. So the footings are way over designed for its actual load. So at first we really thought that if there was any sort of settlement, these larger footings probably would have bridged over the settlements, but that's not the case. We've pretty well narrowed that down, that there is some sort of subsurface conditions going on that have caused some settlement. Because the building's so stiff, any minor settlement is reflected more drastically in a FEMA-type shelter than just a conventional building. So we've taken bids from companies that specialize in micro piles to stabilize the corner. It's primarily at the southeast corner of the FEMA shelter structure. So these micro piles will go down approximately 100 foot and stabilize this corner that has had some movement. They will drill through the existing footing and then mechanically fasten a steel pile that's grounded and solid to the footing and the stem wall of the building, and stabilize that and keep it from settling anymore.
So it is the settling, it's not because of overheating of the rebar or anything of that nature, of
Yes.
bad workmanship or anything like that?
Yes. The footings, the subgrade was tested during construction. The footings were inspected during construction. And FEMA requires what's called special inspections. There are actually more inspections that would normally occur in traditional construction. All that was done and everything complied at the time. And it looked like, at one time we thought maybe there was some weld failures on the precast, but that's been determined that's not the case. They have to perform properly.
And it's my understanding, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It's my understanding that these repairs have been delayed some to make sure that the ground or whatever it's done moving, or we tried other courses that might have been less expensive, but we're to this point because this is what needs to be done at this point.
We put some what's called crack monitors to try to gauge the actual movement, and it seems to be occurring between two panels. And these are precast concrete panels. They're actually cast off-site, trucked in, erected, and welded together. And so we had some crack monitors installed just to gauge and actually be able to measure the actual movement. We're not talking about feet here. We're talking about millimeters. But it's the most extreme movement, I think, was around 11 millimeters, somewhere in that range, the last time it was measured. But we did try to wait quite a bit just to see. We were hoping that the ground would maybe settle and not have any more settlement, or stabilize and not have any more settlement. And that didn't seem to be occurring. And so after a fairly long period of time, we really feel like this is the best recourse to make sure the building will be structurally sound.
Thank you, Kyle. Debbie, did you have something?
Yeah, so after we put these micro piles in, if the ground settles more, we'll still be okay? We won't be back doing this process again?
Unless it settles in another part of the building. This is only going to take care of that southeast corner, but it's going to go down to bedrock, so the bedrock should be stable and we shouldn't have any more issues.
How long will that take
Process.
to the process for
We've
that?
asked them to have it complete by August 10th. So if it's approved today, we'll get it started.
Oh, so
And
they should be back
It's
in
a
there?
fairly short process, it's just working in their schedule. This is a fairly specialized field. We identified 3 companies in our region. There's no one in Joplin, but in our region that specialize in this. Unfortunately, only one actually
I was
did.
just going to say, why are they not?
Well, and this is phase 1 of the project too. We want to make sure, the engineers want to make sure that everything's okay. So we're looking at probably a 5 to 6 month time period before we finish all the cosmetic and the other things with the precast walls. So this is a below ground fix. And then we
So
have
the
a
kids
second
won't be
phase.
in that building,
Not during the time that the micro piles are being put in.
but it's safe for them to be in there during the school year?
Yes.
And
We had a,
no more
we-
things are falling from the,
no, not to my knowledge. I mean, I think we've taken care of the falling.
There was some plywood that was fastened to the bottom of the precast roof panels, and that was catching the pieces. And the pieces that were falling, the biggest one I saw was just, maybe a few inches and fairly skinny, but still didn't want anyone to get hit.
right.
It will be operational, though, as a safe room again
Correct.
for about 6 months.
Yes.
Till the all stages.
Correct. Both phases need to be complete before it's operational as a safe room. It's operational as a gym, general purpose, not as a safe room, FEMA-rated safe room.
Thank you. And thank you, Kyle, for being here.
Thank you.
All right, I'll-
You're welcome to stay.
I'll second.
I move that we approve the Columbia Safe Room Repairs Phase 1.
I'll
second.
Thank you. Jennifer and Derek. Well, you were late on that one. It's been moved and seconded that we approve these repairs to the Columbia Safe Room. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, and thank you, Dave, as well, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
That takes care of item 16. We're going to hop back up to item 11. Senior photo bid, Dr. Gilbreth.
Okay. So every 3 to 5 years, the Joplin High School reviews the bids for the senior photos. And they put out that bid and received 3 bids. Now, just a FYI, this is not district funding. This is to kids. But they bid this so that they can get the most, the best value for the kids and parents. And the best value coming back this year was by Life Touch, Prestige Portrait. So the administration recommends that the board approve the senior photo bid submitted by Life Touch or Prestige Photo for 3 years with the option to renew for 2 additional years.
Well stated, Doctor. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Derek. Second?
Yes. I
Thank you,
second.
Debbie. It's been moved and seconded that we approve this bid by Life Touch.
Quick question. Is there a reason why kids can't submit their own senior pictures? I mean, when I was a kid, that's what you did. You didn't have to have because it's not like they do cap and gown pictures. And I know it may be a silly question, but is there a reason why? Is it just because they may not be appropriate or?
No, it's more about collecting them and getting them.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, really, it's a nightmare when you're talking about 450 to 500
I guess
kids.
that's true, yeah.
So just to make sure that we have the senior picture taken by everybody, and I think at one time we allowed them to go to that studio that we had hired in the past. It was a local studio, but it's just
Just about it. But they're not required to purchase, are they?
Sound.
They're not required to purchase.
No.
They just, as long as they get it taken.
Yeah.
Okay. I just was curious.
Yeah.
I guess that tells how old I am. That you used to be able to do that.
Please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Read 180 System 44 product support. Again, Dr. Gilbreth.
Okay, and this is for just their annual renewal for the technical product support for the 14 sites that use the Read 180. It's just a reoccurring annual a fee of $27,720. So we would recommend that you approve the single provider of the Read 180 technical support for the 14 sites at $27,720.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert.
I move we approve Read 180.
Thank you, Debbie.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the Houghton Mifflin Harcourt as a sole provider of the Read 180 System 44. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. Dr. Gilbert again. Eureka Math.
Yes, and this is just a real quick addendum to, you've already approved the sending 48 teachers to Oklahoma City in July. Originally, when we submitted this, we were going to take this out of one fund, which would have been Title II funding, but now, just to make sure that we were in compliance with spending our 1%, we were on the border of not maybe reaching that, so we've moved this to take it out of the 1% money this year rather than Title II. So it's just to get approval from you guys to move it from paying using Title II funds to professional, or I'm sorry, Title I or 1% money. Yeah.
I'll move that we approve the amendment to the Eureka Math Professional Development.
Second.
Thank you, Jennifer and Debbie. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Copier purchase.
Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Scudder.
It was that time, again, 3 years down the road, and it was time to bid copiers, or excuse me, 5 years. We were beyond the 5 years, actually. Last time we bid them was 2011, and we've kind of purchased a few copiers along the way. And what we did was we went with a 5-year purchase the last time. This time, what we did was we looked at two options. We looked at lease and we looked at purchase. Now, the only difference between the two was paying it all up front or paying it over time, because the service agreements and everything were the same. And we also, as we gave you some information in the board updates, we also had talked to some stakeholders here and looked at principals, directors, different people in different places, and talked about the copy center. And we decided to go ahead and, with the technology that we have now, we can copy a lot faster than we could back in the old days, 2011. And we can get the copies in the building, and they can be done in the building by the teachers and or whoever's in there needs the copies themselves. We got some really good estimates on the number of copies that we had, actually the actual copies that we had made, and what kinds of machines it would be required to make those copies in the schools. And that's why we have the 85 page per minute machines in there. And selected schools and places will have some of those 85 pages per minute machines, and they'll have staple capability as well. There's also some upgrades with monitoring and tracking and security. So if a teacher has something like a special needs education teacher for a special needs IEP or something like that, and they want to print it, they're at Joplin High School or one of the middle schools, it's way down the way from the copier, they can send it to the copier but not get it to start until they get to the copier, put in their code or swipe their badge or whatever it is. So there'll be some security features that we're going to have too. So Dr. Langford helped me with this, and Gigi did a wonderful job making sure that we corralled all this. It was a team effort. So we would like to recommend that we purchase the 42 copiers for the schools for $179,825. And we also will take, and that'll be on the 2018-19 capital outlay budget, includes funds for the initial purchase, and ongoing maintenance will be in the 2018-19 operating budget for the copiers, because there's an agreement, a service agreement, that goes per copy, as you know.
Are we eliminating copy center?
Yes.
Is that eliminating a position?
It is, those are part-time positions. They are retired, I think pretty much retirees.
Yeah.
And we have talked to them about looking at different things that we would be doing where we would need their assistance, throughout the year. And we're going to keep their phone numbers. I think it's probably going to be about a month and a half to 2 months before we can really phase the copy center out, because we're going to have a, carryover period.
Thank you, Dr. Scudder and group.
I move
Thank
we
you,
buy some
Jennifer.
copiers.
Jennifer beat you, but
I second.
I will
I
allow
just
you to
said so
second.
moved. I was, Carrie suggested that.
It's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Soft drinks, Dr. Scata.
Okay, soft drinks, I was getting mixed up. They're the 3-year bid, and it was the time for the soft drinks to come back up. And of course, we typically only have 2 big bidders, and that's Pepsi and Coke. And we put it out just as typical. I think what we've done traditionally is the best way to do it, as we try to get the most amount of funds into the schools as we can. And we would like to recommend that we stay with Pepsi for North, South, East Middle School, and Joplin High School. And these are for the vending machines. Now, this does not lock the booster clubs into purchasing, but they can off this. But I mean, it is definitely for the vending machines, and they have to meet the smart snack standard as well. So it's Diet Pop.
Second.
Thank you, Derek and Debbie. It's been moved and seconded that we accept the Pepsi bid for our soda pop.
Yep. Asbestos. Here we go, Dave. Okay.
Oh, we have to vote
Is
Oh,
there
I'm
any-
sorry. Whoa.
Easy. I don't like Pepsi.
It should be noted that Deborah Gould does not like Pepsi, but I'm going to ask,
But Debbie Fort loves
I'm
it.
going to ask that we vote.
I hate Coke.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't-
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
Are you voting?
No.
And yes, it does pass.
I'm sorry, I cannot.
We're
My
getting a
family
little-
works for Coke.
We're getting a little loopy here. You were supposed to abstain.
Oh, well, they are, well, they're dead
They're
now,
distant
so.
Oh. Okay, we need to move
I guess
on.
that changes things, doesn't it?
Slap happy.
Yeah. It's only 9, I hope we're here till 11.
Hush your mouth.
Let's go
It
to
would
the
not be a record,
asbestos.
Sheriff.
Let's go to the asbestos
Been here
abatement.
later, haven't we, Deb?
Okay.
Yes,
Dave's going to tell you about that. Let's just go to Dave.
Dave Pettit.
On a more serious note,
Yes.
we asked for bids for abatement of asbestos, mainly asbestos floor tile, to prepare this building, one, to help rid of some of the asbestos, but mainly in preparation for the Franklin Tech remodel that we'll be doing. This will encompass the 3rd floor, where we will be moving several special services offices and abating that area, as well as the 1st floor and the library in the basement. And we're asking you to accept the bid from Mid-America Environmental for $85,275.
Thank you, Dave. We note that there are a couple of bids that were submitted, so this is a competitive bid, and the lease cost has been recommended. Derek motions,
Second.
Deborah seconds. Is there any discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, Dave. Dr. Scata, we're to Energy Performance Intelligence Services Agreement.
We were approached by Train about looking at our system, especially over at JHS, for a pilot program to try to make sure that we are using it as efficiently as possible. Dave had actually I was out of town, and he was able to meet with the company. I'll give you a couple bullet points.
Sure. This is actually something that Train has just begun getting into, but it comes very much on the heels of when we received the equipment at Joplin High School. A lot of these things were built in as possibilities for the future, and we're now at that point of the future, where they can do data analytics. It essentially pulls 700 pieces of information off of the entire heat and air system every 15 minutes. They have a war room, so to speak, set up in Kansas City where they can go in, help analyze this. This will include, with this service contract with Train, will include both on-site as well as communications with them via email as well as telephone to help us, one, find any flaws in our system. We'll find anything that needs to be repaired in our system that's not a visual or an actual thing that you would, unless you knew to go to look for that. They will help us to analyze all of this data. And currently, I believe our electric bill runs almost $500,000 a year for the Joplin High School. And so this will give us an opportunity to recoup some of those costs back into by helping to be more efficient and effective with what we have as we encourage them to join with us and partner with us to find those areas where we can cut back on the facility utility usage. And so we are asking you to approve a one-year service agreement totaling $29,277.
And our savings should offset this cost.
The return on investment is approximately 6 months. With the data that they ran with the anticipated, we can make that money back in 6 months.
I'll move we approve the Energy Performance Intelligence Services Agreement.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Deborah. It's been moved and seconded that we accept the Train Intelligence Services Agreement. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. I've been asked to combine 19 and 20. These are surplus items. It's Dr. Saketa, these are your items. Are you okay with us combining them?
Most certainly.
Thank you.
Our cup runneth over would be the best thing I could tell you.
I looked at that vehicle.
It has been a while since we've had an auction, and if those windows would open, things would come out of the old bus garage. And we still have, I think, almost 5,000 books that we need to pick up for auction in several places around the district. So we are asking that you surplus all of those unneeded items. We have contacted an auctioneer that is willing to come the end of next month and hold that auction for us so we can hopefully clean our buildings out and have things gone so that we can start filling it up again. So,
For the benefit of the public, we're talking about surplus, which includes old office classroom furnishings, obsolete computers, and other miscellaneous items. Please show up for the bidding. And also 1987 Chevy C70 bucket truck, which I'm sure anybody could benefit from. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Derek. It's been moved.
Second.
Seconded by Debbie, that we approve items 19 and 20, surplus items. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you.
thank you.
Dr. Saketa, we are to Chromebooks.
Yes, and Eric can sure help out with this one. We need to take care of our elementary and middle schools, and some of our principals have been ordering Chromebooks at the elementary level, and we're really doing a pretty good job of getting Chromebooks, computers in the hands of kids all over the district, especially the younger kids now.
And at the middle school, they each have 3 labs of iMacs, and we were looking to put those into carts, Chromebook carts, and that way they could reclaim those lab spaces if they want to for more classrooms for additional growth and everything. And then each library would get a Chromebook cart also to help replace the aging iMacs there. And I'd like to thank the foundation also because they're offering to help pay $20,000 of this also.
Offset the cost.
And these are just at the middle schools
Middle schools and elementaries.
and all of them?
Well, not East Middle School, because East Middle School, because of the tornado, got quite a few new computers and stuff, so they're still operating pretty well.
But they're not, they got Chromebooks or they got?
They have
Macs?
the MacBook Airs.
Okay, so are you eventually going to switch those over to Chromebooks?
Probably when they're not functioning up to par, we will, yeah.
So again, this is $145,000, which is expected to come from the technology budget. We note that there's been a $20,000 gift from the foundation for Chromebooks and Chromebook cards to help with this purchase, and we appreciate the foundation's support.
I move we buy Chromebooks.
Thank you, Debbie.
Second.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the purchase of these Chromebooks and Chromebook carts. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, Eric.
Got more.
Infinite Campus. This is Dr. Saketa.
Well, as you know, we purchased Synergy, which is our new information system, and to get us to bridge us over the gap of making sure that we don't lose data and that we can seamlessly work through, we want to make sure that we extend Infinite Campus's contract for another 3 months. Eric, is there any more to add to that?
No, that's pretty much it. Just to have that safety net to it, so that at the start of the year, if everything looks like it's on track with EduPoint and everything looks great, but it'd be nice to just have that historical data and sitting there just in case, so we don't mess up at the beginning of the school year.
So the ask is for $20,356 paid from the technology budget. Does anybody have any further questions? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Deborah. It's been moved and seconded. Any additional comments or questions? Please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. iMac desktop replacement for secretaries, custodians, and nurses. Dr. Saketa and probably Eric.
Yeah, let Eric talk about it.
This, one reason we're recommending the iMac, this is going to be for nurses, custodian, and the secretaries. It's what they're familiar with, and with us changing the EduPoint and everything, and they're already going to have a large learning curve. Plus, these are like 2008, so the iMacs do prove their value there, that, you know, they've lasted about 9 to 10 years. And so we'd like to stay with those in that position. And then also in this bid is to refresh all of the high school staff laptops also. And then some of those, when we pull the staff laptops, what's gonna reprovision some of East Carts, because we've had iMacs go down there and we haven't replaced, our MacBook Airs, and we haven't replaced those yet. So.
Of course, there's just one vendor, so there wasn't a competitive bid. It's $301,474.50 paid from
the technology budget. So.
Excuse me, thank you, Eric, the technology budget. Do we have a motion?
I move we buy iMacs.
Thank you, Debbie.
Second.
And thank you, Jennifer. It's been moved and seconded that we approve this purchase. Any additional comments? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, thank you, Eric. Student back to school supplies, Sandra Cantwell, welcome.
And Dale Peterson.
And
Sarah
Dale,
says
welcome
we're
to
the
him.
only thing between her and her bed, so hurry. Okay, back to school supplies, and Dale has prepared the report on that.
And we submitted that report to you and are asking for student supplies to be $32,619.26. These are for the kids that cannot afford them. We provide a supply to the schools. That supply has been requested by the principal of the school based on the needs that they have. And so they'll give those out to the kids that need them, and then if there's anything left over, they put in a closet, have for those needs throughout the year, which we can supplement as well.
I note that there appears to be 6 vendors and that you take the lowest cost vendor for different items.
Yes, this year, last year we did an all or nothing bid, and didn't feel like that return was the best. And so we felt that this was a much better way to go, and it'll save us some substantial money being able to do that.
There's a lot of
This
work.
money, oh, go ahead.
It was a lot of work. Dale put a lot of time.
It looks like it.
Thank you.
And it looks like this is from the Bright Futures Activity Fund, and we appreciate their participation.
Yes, sir. And that activity fund has, of course, been those funds that are on deposit with Joplin Schools, money that was directed specifically to help students. That fund balance is, I just got a report about 8 hours ago, and that fund balance is about $174,000.
Great. Well, we thank you for the work that you're doing in administering.
I'll move that we buy student and school supplies.
I'll second.
Thank you, Lori and Debbie. It's been moved and seconded that we approve this purchase of school supplies. Please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Put the snack packs.
I would say, can we combine 25 and 26?
The milk and the.
25 and 26.
Yes, we're going to combine our digestible items. Isn't that nice?
I love it.
Well, take it away.
I remember when I used to scoop a little of this and a little bit of that together and eat it, so that's what we'll do here. Items
Yeah.
25 and 26, snack pack milk and snack pack food.
All right, right, that's, again, a Bright Futures supported program. We provide, average last year was 650 students per week. It was a little over 22,000 snack packs that we were able to send home. These are kids that have qualified. Family has filled out an application. The qualifications are that we are using an USDA government food insecurity survey, and they have to qualify by completing those questions, and they also must be receiving free and reduced lunches. And this is for our ability to stock those and make those purchases for the whole year. And the milk is, it's known as UHT, ultra high temperature pasteurized milk. It actually has a shelf life, does not need refrigeration. Shelf life's about a year from the product. And we're being able to buy this from the distributor for about 35 cents a carton. And you can't find it anywhere else. Nobody else will bid on it
Dale.
because they know they're going to get it.
Dale, Dr.
Yeah.
Gilbreth is questioning the digestibility of that milk.
I think I should provide him with some of those contents.
Stop someone's office.
I have to admit, I've tried it because, I don't want to send something that everybody's throwing out.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was really good. Tasted like milk. Go figure, Yeah, it was good.
Do I have a motion for these
So
snack
moved.
pack items?
It'll be right on. So moved.
Thank you, Derek. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's been moved and seconded. We approve these items numbers 25 and 26.
I just have one question.
Please. Sure.
Do you, it really sounds to its purchase of the stuff, but when kids move from school to school, are you able to track them? They don't have to fill out a new application once they.
No, we
do
track
they?
them.
Okay.
9 times out of 10, the counselor from the school they're leaving will email me with a copy to the counselor of the school that they're going to be attending.
Okay, good.
And lets them know so that snack pack is seamless.
So there's, okay,
We've
good.
even had kids move out of district and come back and make it seamless.
Okay,
Awesome.
good. Good,
We
good.
also have an override system. If that school detects that there's a necessity of providing that, even though they may not have answered the questions correctly, we can make that happen. Our goal is to take care of the kids.
Right, exactly. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Then you said vote yes, please.
Thank you.
Right?
And yes.
Thank you, Dave.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that was all correct, I believe. Policies for first reading, Dr. Moss.
Yes, and Jennifer spoke earlier about the policy committee meeting, and you have all of those policy updates summarized for you.
Thank you, Gail.
On the action item, and administration recommends first reading approval of the policies as presented.
I'd like to stop Dale and say thank you, Dale, for your board.
Thank you, Gail.
Appreciate you.
Thank you very much. There is no greater privilege than to help a kid.
Awesome. That's right.
I'm
This
sorry.
guy has moved everything from his rooms today to another one, plus it's here tonight, so.
And Dave Pettit.
Dave Pettit was
Dave
involved.
Pettit has two in his team.
I'm sorry, I interrupted Dr. Moss. She
No,
was
that's
trying to
okay.
push some policies through.
That's okay.
I will move we approve policies 27A through E as presented.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's been
Second.
moved and seconded by Debbie. Is there any further discussion? There being none, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you all. Do we have pluses and deltas?
I do.
Great.
You guys moved through a mountain of items, and it's not 10 yet, and I was predicting 10. And it is representative of an absolute Herculean amount of work that these people
Oh, yeah.
sitting around here have been doing over the past month. And I think evidence of continuous school improvement. And I've made notes tonight of ways to make it better going forward.
I
So,
agree. One delta was us allowing ourselves to get a little bit silly, but I think we deserve it for a minute.
I'm sorry.
I think
We're human.
Potty breaks.
Potty breaks, whatever.
Pluses.
I have a two-part delta.
Please.
The first part is delta to the insurance committee for all the hours that they
Yeah.
did.
That's a plus, by the way.
And delta to you guys for taking care of our employees. It's been a long time needed, and it's a great time to be in Joplin schools.
Amen.
Well stated.
Getting better.
And Sandra Cantwell has something to say.
Well, it's Ashley's last.
Oh, my gosh, Ashley Jones.
that's a delta.
This is a delta, which is a negative. So
Yeah.
you were offering pluses, Dr. Ford, but Ashley Jones has been a remarkable member of this group for a year plus. Has been over a year. You just
It has not been over a year.
It seems
just
like it.
shy of a year.
You've spoken to us many evenings and done a tremendous job
Yes.
of explaining what's been going on in your office, and we appreciate you. So,
Well, I appreciate the opportunity that you gave me to serve in this district, and Dr. Moss is so right on when she says Joplin's on the move. It's been a great year of learning for me, working alongside a tremendous team.
well, we wish you the absolute best in
Thank
your
you.
future.
I have another plus. A plus to Ron Langford for investing money like we begged for years. Please invest the money. And for making the budget very explanatory so
Yes.
we can understand it
Understandable,
instead of just
right.
looking at an ALIO report. So thank you for doing that.
Kudos to the finance group and to Ashley Jones. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Pat, whenever you'd like.
You beat